Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. My name is Mick Coyle. It's our last proper show before Christmas, so thanks for joining us today. We've got a really great guest on the programme as well today who's going to be sharing his story. I'm delighted to say he's with us in the studio, talking about the work that he's done and is doing at the moment, how his life has changed in recent years as well, and something of a both physical and emotional transformation. We've got Rob Ancomy in the studio. Rob, thank you for your time. Great to see you.
No problem at all. It's great to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
Rob, you're from Wallasey?
I am, just over the water.
And what's your job? What do you do for a living now?
Well, I'm a part-time civil servant and I'm a part-time model as well. And that's something I'm pursuing to sort of try and make me feel better about myself after, having changed so much, physically changed and mentally changed.
I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Maybe a good time of year for it as well, because I think people are almost planning changes and thinking about changes that they'd like to make and wondering whether or not making any changes will make any difference.
Certainly coming into January, I think a lot of people are going to start thinking afresh, new year, new me sort of thing. So yeah, I think very much people are going to start to think about changing themselves physically and mentally, yeah.
Now we're going to be hearing about Rob, 2018, Rob, and I'm guessing we're going to be hearing about Rob in the past as well. Before we sort of do the big reveal of your life, of the transformation, are they different people, or is it the same old Rob in a different circumstance?
I'd say it's basically the same person. I mean, inside, I'm still the same person. I still think of myself as the same person, but outside, especially if people haven't seen me for a while, it's a big shock because I've changed so much. But yeah, I mean, the person inside is still the same people, the same hopes and dreams and fears. So in that sense, nothing's changed. The real me is still the real me, but the physical transformation has led to me being happier and healthier. And I just think that, hopefully if I can inspire some other people to feel that way too and to maybe transform themselves as well, if they feel the need to, or if they don't feel the need to just try and be a bit more content inside themselves.
Let's, if we can then, set this up in regard to why you're here today.
Sure.
Tell me about the moment in your life where you thought something needs to change. Things need to change.
Sure. So it was 2-3 years back. I was 38 and I went to the doctor and just for a checkup. And I was already on blood pressure medication. And the doctor took my blood pressure and he said, "You're 38 years old, you're on blood pressure medication and your blood pressure is through the roof, even though you're on medication. Lose weight or die." And when you get a message like that, as blunt as that, and I'm not a stupid person, I know that the size I wasn't healthy, but when you get it said to you in such a blunt way and you think to yourself, I'm approaching middle age now, I can't keep taking the mick, I've got to do something about this. So yeah, I thought, right, I've got to lose weight or, die. So I want to live, so I've got to lose weight.
Weight was a problem then. Can you give our listeners a sense of how bad a problem it had become?
Sure. I mean, I'm 6'2" and I was 28 stone. And that meant, I don't know if you know anything about BMI, but my BMI was around 52. It's meant to be between 20 and 25, roughly. So I was more than double the weight I was meant to be. So I was 28.5 stone. I'm now 13.5 stone. So I've lost 15 stone of weight. So I'm slightly less than half the man I was. And it's...
reverse that. Say that again, because people go...
Yeah.
You lost how much weight?
I am 13.5 stone. I lost 15. I was 28.5, so I'm slightly less than half the man I was.
15 stone?
Yes.
It is an unbelievable amount of weight loss. And sometimes people say, oh, it's dead easy at the start, it drops off you dead quick. But I guess the journey that you were on in regard to getting that weight off was, and we're still talking about the physical side of things here, aren't we, was an intense one. Because that's a short space of time, isn't it, to lose that amount of weight?
Well, I did do it in 18 months as well, so I've sort of been at the target weight that I am now for about a year. So, yeah, I mean, as you say, at the beginning it does drop off, but then you've got to really work at it hard to keep it coming off. And you've got to keep yourself motivated because some weeks it'll just be a pound or two that come off. And that can be disheartening, especially at the beginning when the very first week you lose, like, say, 10, 11 pounds. After that, it starts slowing down. You've got to keep plodding on. You've got to keep yourself motivated because otherwise you will just give up and put it all back on again.
How much of a sense of joy was it, or maybe relief, I don't know, when you lost all the weight, you got down to your target weight,
Sure.
and you suddenly realised that you then had the credentials to be a model? I mean, I guess there'd be a lot of people think, when I make these changes, when I get these changes,
Yeah.
you know, there's going to be a different me inside. And actually, when somebody's caught a glimpse of you, going, actually, could you put these clothes on and try and sell them for us?
It was funny. It was my wife, actually. She said, do you know what? She says, I've always loved you and I've always thought you were attractive, but now that you've lost all this weight, she thinks, I think you're quite fit. So she said, I think you should go and do some modelling. And I went, oh, okay then. And so I did. So it was her that sort of gave me that impetus, gave me that push. And I mean, she lost some weight alongside me as well. So we both kind of did it together. But once I hit my target weight, she just said, do you know what? You look good. You're feeling good inside. Go and show off. I said, okay then, I will.
Everyone's dying to know how did you do it? What were the changes that you made?
So, I mean, I followed the Slimming World programme. I did it sort of officially for about 12 weeks and then just continued doing it myself at home. So, I mean, it was largely just about portion sizes, reducing the amount of portion sizes that you have, making sure that you don't eat too many fatty foods. So it's making sure your plate has a third of veg and a third of carbs and a third of meat or a third of a protein. And yeah, it's looking at those portion sizes and thinking, my body doesn't need more than that to sustain itself. Why am I eating more than that? And there is the psychological element of that, of course. I mean, I was eating food because I found it pleasurable, because it gave me a brief feeling of pleasure. Of course, afterwards, I then felt terrible. But in that moment, you feel happy, you feel good. And I would never, ever question anybody else that does that as well, because I don't believe we should judge a person on their size ever. A person should be happy and content in the size they are. If they're happy, that's fine. But I wasn't. So I had to make that change.
We got Rob Ancomy with us on Mental Health Monday, sharing his story. He's lost 15 stone in weight in an incredibly short period of time. He's now a part-time model. He was always in there. It was always in there. It's an incredible story. Rob, when you think back to the 38-year-old who went into the doctor,
yeah.
You're in the studio today, you're talking, positively, you've got a very positive outlook on life now.
Thank you.
When you think back now to that 38-year-old, the mindset that person had, at what stage in life did you settle on that mindset? Was that a mid-20s thing? Was that an early 20s thing? Was it later on than that?
No, it was probably early 20s. I mean, the size I am now, I was in my late teens and at university. So it was after university, it was in my 20s and 30s that things, I started, particularly in my 20s, I went to a very sort of low and dark place where I wasn't really going out much. I was staying in the house pretty much permanently. I wasn't getting any sunlight, wasn't getting any exercise. And I think the only pleasure I had was food. And so it gave me some pleasure to eat. And so I did it, and I did it more and more and more. And I think back to that time, and I think, because I wasn't married at the time, I was single. And in that sense, I suppose being married has helped turn my life around, because although I was large whilst I've been married, it's given me somebody to worry about, somebody to care about other than myself. And so I'm not only getting myself fit and healthy for me, I'm trying to get myself fit and healthy for my wife as well. So having her there and having her support and having the fact that somebody depends on me emotionally as well means I want to be happier and healthier in myself.
Is that a sense of purpose?
Yeah, it is.
As anything?
Yeah, it very much is. I think because I was single, and after I'd come back from university, I just moved back in with my mum and dad, and because of sort of other elements of mental health, like I had depression and panic attacks and social phobia, I wasn't working either. I just got into a terrible rut of just eating and feeling low, but tried to start turning things around in my 30s, found myself work, got myself out there a bit, met my wife. And I feel like I have purpose. I feel like I have direction, and I never did in those previous years.
It's something which has been raised many, many times on the programme. It comes back to a quote that somebody threw at me once, saying that, if you think it's difficult going into puberty, wait until you find what it's like coming out the other side.
Oh, yeah.
And very much so a theme which always emerges on the show, that it's not just about sort of those difficult teen years. It's actually that moment where you find yourself suddenly as an adult, as a grown man.
Yeah.
And you suddenly think, oh, I'm a grown man now. I'm supposed to be
yes
something. And you're not quite sure what it is. All you know is it's not you.
Well, no, absolutely. I think those pressures are piled on us, and I think when we're brought up, especially sort of people of my generation, are thought, well, this is how a man should behave, this is what a man should do. And so, yeah, there are those pressures put on you. And yeah, I had a terrible time as a teenager, but at the same time, I look back and think life was so simple. Although I thought at the time life was complicated, it wasn't. It was terribly simple in retrospect. Life's a lot more complicated now. So you're right, you come out of the emotional side of puberty and adolescence, but on the other side you've then got, yes, I'm now meant to buy a house, job, wife, kids, etc., all these things that you're expected, that society expects you to do, and you think, well, what happens if I can't achieve those? And so you do put those pressures on yourself as well.
Did you get a sense with that you were almost rejecting that idea or those supposed ideals or goals?
I don't think I was consciously rejecting them. I don't think I was sort of digging my heels in and refusing. It was more a case, I think, because I was suffering from some depression and social phobia, I didn't have a choice. I wanted those things, but I couldn't achieve them at that point. I didn't have the choice to achieve them at that point. I do now, and I'm slowly getting myself there, and that's one of the reasons that I model. I'd love to model and love to act, and I'd love to be able to get into a place financially where I'm financially secure and I can earn enough money from this to provide for my wife. And that sounds a bit old-fashioned. I don't mean it in an old-fashioned way, but at the moment she earns more than me, and I'm completely fine with that. I'm completely content with that. I'm not someone who's macho over that, but I'd like to at least be able to provide her with a bit more security because she provides it for me. I want to be able to provide that for her.
In terms of the mental health issues that you had in your mid-20s, were they diagnosed at the time?
Yeah. So
was it helpful to have a diagnosis at that time?
It does. Some people find labels annoying, but it really helped me. So, I mean, I've been diagnosed with clinical depression, panic attacks, and health anxiety. And undiagnosed, I know I've got some social phobia, but they're the three that were diagnosed. And having that label means that people are more likely to believe you. They're more likely to understand that it's a real thing. And I'm not saying that everybody should therefore have that label and that we should disbelieve people that don't, because we've got to accept people at face value. If people say, I'm feeling this, we should believe them. Of course we should. But for me personally, once a doctor said, yes, you have this, you have this, you have this, it made me feel better. Already, even though obviously I was then put on, antidepressants and things, it did make me feel better. It made me feel validated. It made what I was feeling feel real. And
at what time did that come? You talked about, it felt like you didn't want to leave the house. You
Sure.
weren't socialising. Were you then waiting for the did the diagnosis come after that, or was there a diagnosis earlier on?
My initial diagnosis was actually when I was 19, and that was for depression and panic attacks, and that was whilst I was at university. The health anxiety diagnosis came in my mid-20s. It was more just as I aged and I got a little bit more comfortable in my skin and I got a little more confident that I just started thinking, I've got to start turning things around. It didn't, almost like my 20s were an extended teenage period in that sense. I still felt utterly confused and baffled and not knowing what to do. But as I approached late 20s, early 30s, I started to get a little bit more confidence and a little bit more comfortable, feeling more comfortable in stepping out into the world and stepping out and taking ownership of who I was. I just didn't have the confidence before then.
With that in mind, was it almost a shame then that the food issue, the eating issue, had become such a problem? That as you try to grow through and work through the issues, obviously the diagnosis, the antidepressants and so on and so forth, that actually the weight, the physical impacts then became something that were maybe pulling you back.
Yeah, in that sense, and they were. I mean, again, when you're that size, I mean, just moving around the house is difficult. I've always been quite nimble, so I was one of those people that when I walked, didn't look like I was carrying that much weight, and I carried it all over myself. So now that I've lost it, I've been very, very lucky that I haven't got very much loose skin. I can get away with looking like I haven't been one of these people that's lost a huge amount of weight. I'm very, very fortunate in that sense. But it did physically restrain me. Just, walking down the road a few hundred yards, you'd be out of breath. And so you think, well, I don't want to do this. So even though mentally I was starting to get to a place where I wanted to get out there, physically I was being held back. So the two had to coalesce and come together.
Well, so what were those conversations like in your own head at that stage? Because I guess, you were thinking, right, okay, I want to get going, and then your body was going, you're not actually capable of it. Some people might have then in their mind have thought, well, what's the point then?
Yeah.
If I'm trying to do something, but now my body can't allow it, almost as if it's the physical versus mental health battle at all times, and one of them's always going to come out on top.
Absolutely, and at those stages, the physical was a case of what's the point? Even though I had a little bit more motivation, I was still feeling low because of my size, because I wasn't physically able to do as much, and because of that, you then eat more, of course, put more weight on. I needed something to jolt me out of it. I needed that shock for me. I even though mentally I was starting to get to a better place, it wasn't enough to push me over that barrier. So that shock I got from the doctor, like I say, even though, like to think I'm reasonably intelligent and I'm not stupid enough to think, I'm 38 stone, or it's 28 stone rather, at age 38. I'm going to live till I'm 90, I'm not daft. But just having it said to me so bluntly, that was the shock I needed. That was the impetus, the thing that pushed me over the edge and said, right, I'm going to do something.
Do you think that other people might have reacted differently?
Yeah. And I mean, I've had some people, when I've told that story to some people and I've said, I had that shocking news from the doctor who said, you're going to die. I've had people say, I know people have had such messages from doctors, stop smoking now or you're going to die. Or even stop eating now or you're going to die. And it just does nothing. They may have a day or two of worry and then that's it, nothing. So yeah, I think there's plenty of people out there that whatever their mental state is, that's not enough for them. They still find the pleasure in the food or the cigarettes or the alcohol or the drugs or whatever it is that gives them that spark of pleasure in their brain. That's enough for them.
Can I ask you about that then? If you always went to food, if food was the place that you went to, what was that like in breaking that particular cycle? Obviously the message was a start one, stop eating or you die. But if you were always looking for an outlet, did you have to then find a new focus or a new outlet? Did you have, instead of looking to food, did you then think, right, I'll think of something else instead?
Well, ironically, the sheer commitment to the weight loss was the new obsession. So if food was an obsession, you're then obsessed with losing weight. So in that sense, maybe my personality is a little addictive and I do need an obsession. So now that I've lost it, I'm now looking to maybe put a bit back on in the form of muscle. Not too much, just a bit. So now a little bit obsessed with the gym, but I'm also obsessed with the modelling and obsessed with wanting to act. So I've probably got an obsessive personality. I just need to channel those obsessions into something that's a bit more constructive and not as destructive.
The doctor who told you were going to die, what have they said recently about your current health status?
He's a great guy, my doctor. I like him very, very much. I haven't actually seen him for a few months, but when I last saw him and I was at this weight, he was over the moon. I mean, I went to him once a month to be weighed and, just to have my blood pressure taken. So he's monitored it throughout the entire journey. And he was over the moon. He said, you're a poster guy for this sort of lifestyle. You show it can be done. I'd love, if people saw your story and were inspired by it and maybe decided to make the same choice themselves. Yeah, he couldn't be happier. He's actually a guy of a similar age, a similar height, and he's actually a little heavier than I am these days. He is very, very into sport. He loves his basketball, and I used to be, double his weight, and I'm now slightly lighter than he is.
We're hearing Rob's story on Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. You'll always, I guess, people will see the physical change, won't they, Rob?
Sure, yeah.
But is that why when you share your message now and you talk about your message, you then you very much link it to your mental transformation as well?
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand. I don't think the physical and mental are separated in that sense. If you're going to change one aspect of your life, it's going to affect the other. So as I lost weight, I gained more confidence. One went down, the other went up. I don't think they're ever separate. I think one always informs the other. And again, that's why if you are feeling low, you do tend to, in my case, eat to make yourself feel a little bit happier, to make you feel better. But it's brief and it's passing and it's temporary. And in the long term, for me anyway, it was going to be destructive.
In terms of that feel good, the confidence that comes with it,
sure.
How would you explain that to our listeners in terms of why it's a positive thing? Because some people go, well, of course you feel better because you weren't as big anymore.
Sure.
But was it about the process as well? Obviously, the chemical, the endorphins that kick in when you exercise, that moment of looking at yourself and feeling a little bit different about yourself. In your case, it was weight loss. But
Sure.
do you think there's something to be taken from that in regard to when you're making changes for the positive, be it about weight or anything?
Sure.
That can be positive for your mental health.
Yeah, of course, any positive change, however you personally define positive, is going to have a good impact on your mental health. It is going to release endorphins and all the lovely happy chemicals we have in our brain. Of course it is. So be it weight loss, be it some exercise, be it a new job, be it a new hobby, whatever it is that gives you some satisfaction, gives you some contentment, is going to inform your mental health. It's going to make you feel better inside. So yeah, in my case, yeah, weight loss, but many people, it doesn't really matter that I've lost a lot of weight and that's what makes me happy. That's just me personally. Somebody else, it might be taking up photography as a hobby, going to kick a ball about on a Sunday morning. Whatever it is that makes you feel a little bit happier, a little bit better, apart from things that are obviously destructive, then yeah, I'd encourage you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to try and lose a lot of weight and then be disappointed that they don't then become a model.
Yeah.
Because it's got a specific case in that.
Yeah. It's not. It's in that sense. I'm very, very lucky. It's not necessarily going to happen to everyone, but this is just in that sense. Everybody can go and have their photo taken. It doesn't matter what you look like. I'm not saying necessarily I'm good looking. My wife thinks I am. A few other people might have commented, "Oh, you're ruggedly handsome," and that's very nice. Thank you very much. Lovely. It's not for me to say. But yeah, whatever makes you content, whatever makes you feel better, whatever makes you feel happy, pursue that and really go for it.
When you see the issues now that people talk about, social media being a good example, because it tends to happen there rather than magazines and things
Sure.
now, body shaming, fat shaming and things like that. You've seen it now from both sides.
Yes.
Do you have a huge sense of empathy towards people who find themselves on the end of that?
Oh, very much so, because I used to be on the end of it myself. And in that sense, even though I am now got a BMI of normal, whatever normal is, because I don't think there's such a definition, I still consider myself as part of the body positive community because I didn't lose weight for any kind of body shaming issues because I think society tells me I should lose weight. And that's my message to everyone. If you are happy and healthy and your doctor thinks you're healthy and you are big, then great, go for it. As long as you're happy and as long as you're healthy, that's all that matters. I lost it because I wasn't healthy. And that's the only reason I left it. I wasn't going to live. I was going to die. I had to lose it.
Do you think there's an expectation from people that, well, you're just overweight, just lose some weight? Nobody, I mean, your doctor's probably a different case, but actually, I guess no one was really saying to you, Rob, you're overweight, just lose some weight.
It happens.
Without being, completely unaware of the fact that I was unaware that you had a diagnosis from the age of 19, that you were unable to leave the house throughout your 20s, and it was only through further diagnosis in your mid-20s that you're able to turn your... Nobody has that backstory, do they? What they do is they see someone who's a bit large and go, well, disgusting. How have they even allowed themselves
yeah.
With no sense of interest in anyone going, oh, actually, there's quite a reasonable explanation for this. If you sit down and listen, I'll tell you what it is.
I always find that attitude hilarious because... Do you think a large person hasn't already thought that? Do you think they're not intelligent enough to think the less I put in, the less size I'm going to be? It's not a complicated equation. So every person that's bigger knows the reason they're bigger is because they've eaten too much food. They're not stupid. It's not a complicated thing. So someone turning around and saying, just eat less food is really quite a destructive thing to say. They already know that. Of course they do. They're either choosing not to because they're completely happy and content where they are, or there is a mental issue that's preventing them, or an undiagnosed mental issue that's preventing them. So to judge a person based purely on their size and to say such a thing, it's a terrible thing to say, and it's really destructive as well.
Did you ever get random comments in the street from members of the public?
Yeah, so when I was at my biggest, I was walking along the street and someone just shouted, "Oh, you Rick Waller," across the road, or, various things about being large. And it also would come from people who feel they have a right to say that. So maybe family, friends who have known you for some time who feel, and they're worried about you. Of course they are, but it's the way in which maybe they say it, like, "Oh, you're too big, lose some weight." It's like, yeah, a blunt message like that's not going to go down very well. It's just going to make you feel worse inside. And what do you do when you feel worse inside when you're big? You go and eat.
The other thing as well, a lot of body image, if you were to say to somebody, right, at what point is it important to think about body image? People would say teenage girls, and they probably say teenage girls are the age of 13 to 19, probably.
Yeah.
Yours is one, you were a 38-year-old bloke.
Yeah.
You were heading towards 40. Yeah. I'm not saying that's the age at which a lot of blokes are kind of going, well, actually, from a physical point of view, I'm on the downward slope anyway.
Sure.
But actually, in terms of a lifestyle changes, across the age, your message is a strong one, isn't it? That actually, 38, because a lot of people will think, well, they're married by that point. Some people have got kids, mortgages and jobs and so on.
Sure.
And so they almost think, well, this is the pathway now. This is the road that I'm on, whichever way it's going. And I can't really change it. But actually, at the age of 38, you were able to make a huge change.
Absolutely. And you're never too old to make that change. So, I was approaching middle age and I had to make that change. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. It doesn't matter what age you are. If there's something that you're not happy with, something that you're not content with, make that change. I don't believe that path should be set. I don't believe, as you say, I'm approaching middle age, this is it now, this is the path I'm following, and there's nothing I can do. Of course there is. If you want it enough, you can do it at any age. So as you say, a lot of people think about body positivity and wait to be like teenage girls, but we've got to think about it all genders, all ages, never too old to make a change.
We talk about people who would criticise you when you were larger. Do you ever get people now who, when you try and give a positive message, you kind of go, well, it's all right for you because you've lost the weight?
Yeah, and that does happen. And the only thing you can really do is be compassionate, because obviously they're still in a situation where they want to lose weight. And all I can do is empathise and sympathise and say, yeah, I hear where you're coming from, but I've been there and I know what it feels like. So if you want to make that change and if you want to lose weight, I may have some tips for you. I may have some advice for you. You may find them utter rubbish. You may find them, you may want to chuck them in the bin. You may think they're just garbage. But there may be one or two gems in there that you latch onto and think, do you know what? That might work.
And how important is it when people do go about that, is they consider both the physical but also the emotional or mental transformation? Because I guess some people might think, okay, I'm losing weight now. I've lost 3 pounds this week. Why do I not feel any different?
Yeah.
Is there almost an education thing that we need around that, about how physical changes sort of enhance emotional changes and vice versa, so that people get a sense that this is going to be a journey, and sometimes you might lose weight, but you might not feel like you're losing weight. You might feel like you've hit a dead end and you might feel like giving up, but actually something else should be able to kick in then that might help you get to the next stage.
Well, something I say to people whenever they ask about weight loss advice is, I think, first thing to consider, get this in your head straight away, it's a marathon, not a sprint. This is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. If you want to do it, it's going to take time. But the changes will come. And as you start to lose weight, the emotional changes will come. But they're slow and they're gradual and they're incremental. So nothing's going to change overnight. It's not. So you've got to try and manage that expectation in people. People do think, if I make this change, something will happen instantly. It won't. You've got to just do it incrementally. And the other thing is, forgive yourself as well. So as people are going through these things and they say, I've only lost 2 pounds this week. No, you haven't only lost 2 pounds. You've lost 2 pounds. That's great. That's brilliant. You might have wanted to lose 5, but you've lost 2. Well done. Pat yourself on the back. Start afresh this week. See how many you can lose this week. People beat themselves up too much and don't forgive themselves enough. Don't see the negative in what you haven't achieved. See the positive in what you actually have achieved.
You're blogging about your ongoing changes and what you're doing now, looking to get into acting, modelling as well. If people want to find out more information about the blog and things, where can you go?
I'm all over Instagram at Rob Ancomy, and if you just search on Facebook as well for Rob Ancomy, I'm the only one on there.
Thank you for sharing that story today. It's an incredible transformation, Robert. We wish you all the best with 2019. All your plans.
Cheers.
Hollywood superstar and everything.
Fingers crossed.
As well. And I'm sure if people want to get in contact with you, they'll get involved via the social media as well. We'll get links up on the social media at our end as well. And thanks for joining us on Mental Health Monday.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're with Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk. Don't forget, if you want to find out mental health organisations close to where you are, we always recommend people head to the Hub of Hope, hubofhope.co.uk. Either use the location device on your app or type in your postcode and you can find mental health organisations close to where you are. We'll be back next week with a bit of a Christmassy special as we take a look back at some of the big talking points from this year from a mental health point of view. After that, we're rolling into 2019. I'm Mick Coyle. You can drop me an email, mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk. Mental Health Monday returns very soon.
Rock, sport and talk.
This is Liverpool Live with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.